Hello YouTube, Rysair here with a Grand Archive deck tech for Serene Fire Exia Jin. This is a deck that my team and I have worked on for a little bit. It's definitely one that's showing promise early in the format. I think it's really strong into last format powerhouses like Slimes and Merlin, and even some of the Allies decks. It feels really good into. So I wanted to show it off today. Maybe if you're confused about what to bring to Ascent Toronto and don't want to bring Slimes or don't want to, you know, try something terribly new, give this one a shot. I don't think it's super complicated. I do also think it's not super innovative. It's definitely a deck that kind of was given to us in Mortal Ambition, in a manner of speaking. But I think kind of the way I've drawn it up and the way I've tweaked it, it feels really strong. And I think this is something we'll see in this meta. So we are a Spirit of Serene Fire deck. Spirit of Serene Fire, Glimpse 6, Draw 6. I think both of those, and you can also heal 6. I think the Glimpse and the heal are both extremely important for this deck. Glimpse to find the cards that you want to see, and then the heal is very strong later in the game when we get to Jin's level 3, because healing works really well with Jin's level 3. So going into the Jin lineage, the Jineage, Jin 1, 2, and 3. We do play all 3. These are the only options for 1, 2, and 3. Jin level 1 has kind of an irrelevant effect. His real effect is he has 20 HP in this deck. He does have an inherited effect, though, in that if you swing with a polearm, weapon, or attack card, you can give a human or horse +1 until end of turn. We do run humans in the deck, and we do run polearms. So there is a chance that this effect will trigger. It does give you a little bit of damage every once in a while. It's not too bad. And that does inherit really well into his level 2. His level 2 says on enter, his first attack this turn gets +1 and wakes him up. So he gets 2 attacks on the turn that he levels into 2. Also, again, side effect. His level 2's effect is he has 24 HP. Level 3 is the reason we play the deck. It has the Exia element. The Exia element's all about like using your damage counters on yourself to gain bonus effects. And he says as long as it is not your end step, he has immortality, meaning he cannot die, meaning you cannot lose the game. Well, that's not entirely true. You cannot die if it's not your end step. You can still get milled out and be forced to draw a card, and you will still lose the game. But you don't die from having too many damage counters, so you can go above his max HP threshold, which is 28, and still not die. So if your opponent's playing at slow speed, or if your opponent doesn't have a way to kill you in your end step, you always get another turn to do things. And then during that turn, if you can get your health back under the max HP threshold with something like a Serene Fire release, you get another turn after that. So he buys himself a lot of time by having healing, and the Exia cards all care about having high damage. So we run a high density of Exia, which is another reason we run the Glimpse, because we want to be able to glimpse away those Exia cards in the early game and try to find them in the late game. We run both pieces of Exia Regalia. These are unbelievably strong. I'll start with the Berserker Plate. Berserker Plate costs 1 to materialize. Class bonus warrior, which we are. Your champion has +7 max HP. So you actually go from having 28 max HP, if this doesn't die, to having 35 max HP, which is huge. Letting you go even higher into those thresholds. And then the Shuangji of Sacrifice also costs 1. It's a 1/3 polearm weapon. So again, Jin's inherited effect does work with it. The 1/3 polearm weapon. On enter, you can have it deal 5 damage to you. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't say the other effect here. This is at the beginning of your recollection phase. You take 3 damage, unpreventable, and draw a card. So you draw an extra card every turn with this, for strong. And then this, you can take 5 on enter and draw a card. And then it gets +1 attack for every 5 damage counters on your champion. So usually you're around 35 or 40. So usually this is +7 or +8. This is normally an 8 or 9 damage polearm. It does so much damage. These are both extremely vulnerable to Fracturize, so be sure you're playing around that. Especially this. If this gets Fracturized, it feels really bad. That's why I think when we talk about what this deck is good into, it's good into almost everything. but it seems really, really bad into Nico. So keep that in mind. If you have a lot of Nikos at your local, maybe don't. Shuangji of Sacrifice gives you extra draw power. We also run Dragon's Dawn. Now, this card maybe looks a little risky at first, but the ceiling on this card is so incredibly high, I feel it remiss not to run it. It also costs 1, and in addition to the 1, you also have to banish 3 fire element cards from your graveyard to materialize this. So you won't always get it out every game, but when the opportunity presents itself to get this out, it's super duper good. On attack, you can discard a fire card. If you do, you're coming in for 4 damage, and on champion hit, draw a card. So it lets you cycle your fire element cards, which is particularly cool because if you have this sitting on board from earlier in the game and you lineage released your fire, you have an outlet to discard some of those fire cards that you draw in the later game and actually draw into something playable like a Norm or an Exia card. Also, with Jin level 2, if you get this out and go into Jin level 2 and get his on-enter, you swing once. That's with a +1 with this, so that's for 5. Discard a fire card, draw a card. And then he untaps. You swing again for 4. That's 9 damage in 1 turn for... And you get to cycle 2 fire cards. Plus, you could play other stuff on top of that. Super strong as well. Dragon's Dawn has really impressed me in this deck, and I think it's worth including if you've been scared because, oh, you can't do it if you don't have enough fire engrave, or if they nullifying you, you can't do it. I still say do it. There are just some games where, yeah, I get nullifying and I forego it, but the games where I get to play it are really, really good. I will say there's also a minion that's kind of running amok at a lot of particularly casual tables or middling tables. Hydroguard Retainer, 1/4 taunt. When your winds move from north to west, draw a card. This kills that. This, you can swing in for 4. You won't draw the card because it's on champion hit, but you can swing in for 4 with this. That's really, really, really helpful. We run Draw Package, Chalice of Blood, and Backup Charger, and I'm on Smoke Bombs for another Float Converter. I think these two are auto-includes. Your champion wants to put damage counters on himself, so you get to Chalice of Blood pretty much every game. And then Smoke Bombs, you do attack frequently with Shuangji, with Dragon's Dawn, with some of the attack cards that we'll show you in the main deck. So getting a taunt or intercept out of the way with Smoke Bombs is, I think, super important. We also run Terrafring. I'm not sure about this. The only ways I've lost in testing, really, is dying before I get to level 3. So this kind of helps with that. Helps you not take as much damage because the allies decks can push a lot of damage early. This that just worth keeping in mind. But I run Terrafring. I think it's replaceable, but I haven't really thought of another card that I want to run in the material deck main. And then my Divine Relic is Quicksilver Grail. As I said, these are super weak to Fracturize, and you kind of want to see if you can Quicksilver Grail, save it for the last minute. Additionally, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 regalia that cost 1. So a lot of times when I am, because you'll see with the main deck, a lot of times you are laying your whole hand in the early turns because you're just trying to turbo through your deck. So when you lay your whole hand and you don't want to risk one of these being eaten by memory cost if you don't have a float, you can materialize Quicksilver Grail, put one of them under it. Usually it'll be Dragon's Dawn. I put Dragon's Dawn under it a lot. I'll also put the Shuangji under it a lot for similar reasons. And then when I play my first card in the turn, which is sometimes an attack, respond to that, crack Quicksilver, use this to pay with one of the cards that I laid down that's not as important, and you still get the on-enter of the Shuangji, etc., etc. Yeah, not too surprising a material deck. I think the only thing we really see with Jin that I haven't seen a lot of people doing is the Serene Spirit instead of the regular Fire Spirit. And, you know, it almost doesn't make sense to see Dragon's Dawn and Serene Spirit, but I can say pretty confidently I've never really had issue with the lineage release being why I couldn't do something fire related. I've been good on lineage releasing pretty much all my games. Okay, main deck. We are a level 3 deck, so I run 4 Dungeon Guide. I mean, yeah, it's Dungeon Guide. There's not too much to say about it. You are a level 3 deck. You are hunting for this, pretty much. Because, as I like to say with this deck, once you hit level 3, the game begins. It doesn't, like, you know, you're not going to close out the game in like a turn or two after hitting level 3. Sometimes you can. But yeah, you want to hit level 3 as fast as possible, even if you go kind of super minus, because once you hit level 3, you get access to these incredibly powerful draw cards, largely Berserker Plate. Berserker Plate even draws you a card the turn you materialize it, so as the faster you can get to 3, the better. And if you can get to 3 without worrying about already crossing your damage threshold, that's a bonus. Okay, draw package. This deck runs a ton of draw power. It's why we're in Fire, and it's pretty much all of our Fire cards are draw cards. So we run 4 Cremation Ritual, 4 Hasty Messenger, 4 Clumsy Apprentice. Clumsy Apprentice is incredibly good in this deck. 4 Creative Shock, and a Turbocharge. I think that's all the draw. So what's this? 17 draw cards. Some of them cycle, some of them just straight up draw. We are a Glimpse Spirit deck, so we draw 6 on the first turn. So you don't always get the nice play of play a 2-drop and then Cremation Ritual it, like Merlin kind of used to do, or still kind of does. But if you use Clumsy Apprentice as that 2-drop, you do get to do it. You can go Clumsy Apprentice, take 2, draw a card. Cremation Ritual, Clumsy Apprentice, draw 2 more cards. And then you're in the money. Like, then you're drawing tons and tons of cards. That also puts a bunch of fire in your graveyard really early. You can also go, if you're going second, you can go Hasty Messenger, attack, discard a float, draw a card, Cremation Ritual, the Hasty Messenger. And then you already have potentially 3 fire in your graveyard to materialize Dragon's Dawn, if you want. So you can rush into that on some of these draws. All of this is really, really good. All of this serves to turbo through your deck and get as many cards deep as possible, because you want to hit that dungeon guide and you want to get to level 3 as fast as possible. Floating Memory Package, Ignite Fate. This card has been so impressive to me. Goodbye Tempered Steel forever. This card is a Tempered Steel that you can always cast. This card actually has use in the later game, where sometimes dealing 2 damage is all you need to do to your opponent. Sometimes dealing 2 damage to yourself puts you at the next threshold in order to get a bonus effect on one of your cards. And then it's always worth pitching to Creative Shock, Hasty Messenger, or anything like that, or Dragon's Dawn. It's a fire float, so you can pitch it to Dragon's Dawn as well. 3 Stalwart Shieldmate. We do run Cremation Ritual. It's one of the better float targets. I don't love it because it's not fire, but it's worth running. It's kind of it was like this or Fast Cure. I didn't like Fast Cure because unless you're hard losing, you are going to have more influence than your opponent, pretty much assuredly. So Fast Cure did not really do much in this deck. And then, you know, you could tech stuff. You could go Reprogram. You could go Exercise Curse. You could go Seal the Past if you want to run like something that isn't Stalwart. Understandable. I just like Stalwart because it is a cremation target as well. I wish I had another fire ally that was generic float and not class bonus float, but I can't think of one now and have been looking, so I imagine there isn't one. Flame Rune Swordsman ×4. Here's your class bonus float on a body. Very good to pitch for Dragon's Dawn. Very good to pitch for Creative Shock. Very good to sack with Cremation Ritual. I don't love that it's class bonus because on turn 1 it's a little harder to convert. But again, in the late game, you can just banish this from your graveyard to play a Berserker Plate, to play a Shuang-Chi Sacrifice, to play a Smoke Bomb, and you get your float conversion off of it. I also like using it as the floating memory for Dragon's Dawn, and then banishing 3 other fires. I guess that's worth mentioning as well. Do be careful if you have like if your graveyard is like this. I don't know, this is like a stacked graveyard. But if you're trying to materialize Dragon's Dawn and you use this as your float and this as your 3 fire cards, if you're not thinking about it, you're eating 4 memory cost worth of float to play Dragon's Dawn. Don't do that. That feels really bad. Try to banish like Cremations, Clumsies, Creative Shocks, Hasties as your fire cards. And then, yeah, if you can use this as a float, sure, but try not to use this or this as like the fire cards that you're banishing. 3 Blazing Lunge. Holy moly. Thank you, Yeti Webcam Tournament this past Thursday. I did not believe in this card. This card is nuts. 3 cost, 4 attack, generic. It just not even counting its effect. That's already good. This clears a Hydro Guard Retainer. This clears a Guan Yu. This clears a buff-countered... a buff-countered ally, like an X3 with a buff counter. Like a Liu Bei if they put a buff counter on it. This clears a lot of important stuff. It also clears a balanced Lunette. There's like a lot that this clears that it's like, oh my goodness, just having a 4 damage attack is already worth it. Second plus, it's a polearm. So you trigger Jin's inherited effect. Kind of neat. Helps a little bit sometimes. Third effect, its actual effect. Class bonus, banish 2 fire cards from your graveyard. It becomes unpreventable damage. Spell Shield Terra, Spell Shield Astra, Spell Shield Arcane, Resolute Stand, Water Barrier. I don't care. I'm going to deal damage to you. It's so nice. And then the way it reads, if you haven't read it carefully, this triggers while it's in intent. So the way Opportunity works in Grand Archive is you'll go Blazing Lunge, and it's probably going to be for like 30 damage because of some of the other cards that we'll show you in this deck. So I'll go Blazing Lunge for 30, and then pass priority to them. They now have the opportunity to respond. If they respond, priority passes, or opportunity, excuse me, passes back to you, and you can go, okay, I'm going to activate its ability to banish 2 fire cards and make it unpreventable. You don't have to commit to it like Rending Flames. Rending Flames, you have to do it to get the extra damage. This is just to make it unpreventable. So you don't actually have to do it until they are trying to prevent damage. It's a small little thing, but it's nice in that, like, also this card is just not... This card's not useless if they go Nullifying. It's still, like I said, it's just a good attack. But yeah, you don't have to commit to banishing the 2 fire cards, because if you go Blazing Lunge, and then they go, are you going to banish 2 fire cards? You go, no. And then they do nothing. They take the damage. If you go, no, and they go, okay, I'm going to Spell Shield Arcane, you can go, okay, I'm going to banish the 2 fire cards. Super duper nice, because it activates while it's in intent. It says it on the card. Super duper nice. We have 2 Flame Sweep. I like Cleave in this deck. I might go down to 1 Flame Sweep. I like Cleave in this deck, particularly because you're always attacking for so much once you're in Exia form, that just having the Cleave tag is good enough. So this is also nice because, again, with Dragon's Dawn, you're going to cleave for up to 5 or 6 with Dragon's Dawn, and it will hit their champion, so you will draw a card if you pitch a fire card. That's also kind of nice. A little expensive play, but also kind of nice. I like it. If you're Jin level 2 and you Flame Sweep, you are sweeping for 3 without a weapon or supplemental thing, because he gives himself +1, and then this gets the class bonus, so you are cleaving for 3, which clears most allies, just as Jin 2. It does alright. It does alright. I think I might drop it to 1, though, but I do like having the option to cleave just generically in this deck. Alright, now the rest of the deck is Exia cards. We run 23 Exia cards. Again, we're a Serene deck. We can get to these quickly. We can filter them out. I'll start... I'm not really sure what order I want to present them in, but I'll start with Hemorrhaging Rend. It's the same thing as Flame Sweep, essentially. It's a cleave for 4. It's also a 4... It's a 4 attack in a pinch if you're not 20 damage or more. But having cleave means they cannot stealth your attack. It means they cannot taunt or intercept your attack. And oftentimes, all you have to do is connect. This past weekend, I killed somebody who had a Majestic Spirit out as Merlin because I cleaved for 44, I think it was. Yeah, I cleaved for like 40-something, and it dealt, even with the half damage through the Majestic Spirit, it dealt like 22 or 24 damage to them and just killed them. Yeah. Having cleave, I think, is really, really important in Jin. And that's, I have 2 and 2. I might go 3 and 1. I haven't really decided yet. Because, just admittedly, I haven't played against a lot of allies decks. So I'm not sure how much we want to hedge to them, or how much you can just kind of ignore it, go to 3, and then just kill them. Proof of Life is an interesting one that I didn't believe in at first. I'm at 2 of it. I think I'm going to stay at 2 of it. It has 2 effects. It's a fast 1 cost. The first effect is the next time you would take damage this turn, instead you take double that damage. They do stack, so you can take quadruple damage if you want. This is a way to fuel your other cards. A lot of times people will try to not deal damage to you, which, for the record, I think is foolish. Will try not to deal damage to you in order to prevent you from getting all your bonus effects. And one of the best ways to get your bonus effects is to go materialize Shuangji of Shuangji, pardon me if I'm butchering that, of Sacrifice. And then in response to the on-enter, play Proof of Life, or 2 Proof of Lives. It deals 5 unpreventable. So if you do Proof of Life, it deals 10 unpreventable. And then a second one, it would deal 20 unpreventable to you. So it gets you to whatever damage threshold you generally need. And then it has a bonus effect that says you can pay if you have 40 or more damage on your champion. This is your highest damage threshold. If you have 40 or more damage on your champion, you can pay 2, banish it from your graveyard, and wake up your champion. So you can go swing Shuangji with Cleave. That was another play I did on one of my turns. I did Hemorrhaging Rend for, I think it was for 18 or 19. So Merlin took 9, and it killed the Majestic Spirit because it dealt 19 to that. That doesn't have its own damage. So she took 9, and then I untapped my champion, and I swung again with the Shuangji for another, like, 19. With, like, I think it was with a, Blazing Lunge. So I swung for a bunch more, and then killed her by hitting her twice that way. Really, really like this card. This is also a great card to pitch to Hasty Messenger or Creative Shock or whatever earlier in the game if your hand's a little clogged, because it'll have a graveyard effect later in the game. That's really, really useful. All right. This card, I don't know what they were thinking when they printed this card. This card is insanely strong. It's the reason to play the deck, I think. It's not without its faults, but holy moly has this card overperformed as I've been playing this deck. It seems okay on paper, but let me tell you, the first time you cast 2 of them in one turn, you will understand what true power is, because it says if you have 35 or more damage counters on you, target a champion. Until end of turn, every time they would take damage, they take an additional damage. So it's Poison Dagger if you have 35 or more damage on you. And then for every 6 damage counters on your champion, deal 1 to all other units. So you're going to deal 2 to their champion. Let's say you're at 35 exactly. You'll deal 2 to their champion 5 times because you have 35 damage counters. That's 5 instances of 6 damage counters. So you'll deal 10 to their champion. If you have 36, you'll deal 12. 42, you'll deal 14. That's about where I start to cap. I would deal about 14 with this, usually. That's already really good. And you wipe the board. If you cast the second one in the same turn, now you're dealing 3 for every 6 damage on you. So if you're at 35, you're dealing 15, and you already dealt 10. So that's already 25 if you're at 35 damage counters, which kills most champions. If you're at 36, you're dealing 18, which plus the 12 is 30. Again, that does kill any champion. They can, of course, heal or something in the middle, but yeah. And then I've also cast 3 in one turn. Bit excessive, but I cast the first one, they took the damage. I cast the second one, they responded with a Covenant of Thorns off of a Quicksilver Grail, so that cleared their board. And then the third one dealt 42 to them, and they died. So it's very strong. Do understand that it works like Poison Dagger, where it tries to deal 1 damage first, and then decides if that 1 damage would have gone through, it'll increase it. So, for example, if they Safeguard Amulet, I mean, Safeguard would block it even if it did do it straight up. But let's say they do Veiling Breeze for 1 or even 2. Veiling Breeze for 1 stops this card. So this is a very stoppable card. The thing is, it's not your only way to kill them. And it generally wipes the board no matter what. Also, sorry, I'm rambling a little bit, but like Blanche also blanks this card. Blanche, Veiling Breeze, Safeguard Amulet. There's a lot of ways to blank this card. Just keep that in mind. It's not free, but when you're playing multiples of it, or you're playing it plus cleaving for like 21, or you're playing it and swinging in with a Shuangji and then waking up your champion, that's really where this deck's like strength comes, is it attacks from multiple angles because it gets so much influence on the way up. Super strong card. It's definitely like, I think, the key card of the deck. 3 Enrage. I was on 4 Enrage, but I realized that like often you only need 1 Enrage to kill your opponent. This card stacks incredibly well. If you have 20 or more damage, it only costs 2. You deal 4 damage to yourself, and then the next time you would attack this turn, you deal +1 for every 4 damage counters on you. So oftentimes that's +10, +12, +14. If you have like 52 damage counters on yourself, or that's +13, excuse me. 14 would be 56 damage counters. You do get that high too. Also works well with Proof of Life in that you deal double damage to yourself. I thought this card was really bad when I read it. In any other card game, I think this card would be really, really bad. Because it does nothing by itself. But again, you get so much influence in this deck, and you're able to combo this pretty much every time. Also, you got to know when to go for it. The nice thing is, because you can only die on your end step, you often get 2 or 3, bites of the apple, 2 or 3 attempts to go for it. So this card, because of that, ends up being really, really good. I don't think it's a 4. Xiao Yun and 2 Bloodbound Blade Sworns. A couple allies. The Exia allies are really strong. This guy's just a 3/6 by himself. He also gets +1 for every 10 damage counters on you, so he's usually like a 5/6 or a 4/6. And then he does have the downside where if he takes damage, you take that much damage. Definitely got to keep that in mind, but again, we're trying to get damaged. If you play him and then Scream, like play him, swing into them for like 5 or whatever, and then Scream, he'll get hit by all the ones and actually damage you and make your next Scream or attack even more powerful, which is kind of cool. And this guy's just hard to remove. I like him because he deals with taunts, he deals with intercepts. He often has 4 attack, because you only need 10 damage counters on yourself for him to be 4 attack. 4 attack clears most things, so you can get, like, again, Hydro Guard Retainer out of the way. You can get even just a random Stalwart or Library Witch out of the way if you don't have a cleave. And then Xiao Yun. Xiao Yun's really cool. He's just a 4/3 that when he swings, he deals 2 damage to you. Very solid ally. If he gets a kill, he gains immortality, which is really annoying against a lot of decks. With this build, do not kill a Terra unit. Do not kill a unit if your opponent is Terra. They will put Covenant of Thorns on him. He will be immortal and have Covenant of Thorns on him, and you will have no out in the main deck. I do not run any main deck ways to kill Covenant of Thorns, because the main way I break Covenant is I kill them twice. But if they put it on him, you can't get rid of it. The only way, hypothetically, to get rid of it, if they Covenant of Thorns him and he's immortal, is to play a second copy of him and then use the, for lack of a better word, legend rule, the unique ally rule, to put the one with the Covenant in the graveyard. Because you cannot Cremation Ritual an immortal unit. You cannot deal enough damage to an immortal unit to kill it. It will be there, and you will lose. So just don't misplay like I did first game. 3 Exia. Again, this is one that could easily be a 4 of. Exia, really strong. It's a site. Use it on your combo turn. Play it. It replaces itself, and then your next card costs 1 less. This lets you play 5, 6, 7, 8 cards in one turn if you count the Exia sites. Sometimes you just go this, and then you Enrage for 1, and then you go this, and then you maybe play another Enrage, or you play Scream for 2, and then you play like 1, 2, or 3 of these, and very, very strong. Again, easily could see this being a 4 of. I have it at 3 right now. We have Ingress of Sanguinire. I'll be honest, I'm not convinced this card is good. I went from 4 to 3, and now I'm at 2. You can only cast it on your opponent's end step. You gain +3 on your first attack next turn, which isn't too bad. And then if your opponent has not damaged you this turn, or excuse me, if you have not taken damage this turn, meaning you didn't also hit yourself with anything. If you've not taken damage this turn, draw 2 cards in your memory. The more I've played against, like, the first couple times I've played against somebody and they've tried to, like, keep me off of taking damage, this has been miraculous. It's a draw too. It's a pot of greed, right? It's super good. And then I play someone once or twice and they know how my deck works and they're like, okay, I'm not gonna hit you for 10, I'm gonna hit you for 1 or 2. So I think this will find its way out of the deck pretty soon, and that'll probably be, like, again, 4th Exia Site and maybe like another ally or something, or maybe I'll try the 4th Enrage again. It's good when it's good. I mean, I can't deny that. And then 4 Menflesh. This card's really, really strong, as it is. As I said, healing is really strong in Jin. So you've got cost 2. Cost 2 less to cast if you have 25 or more damage on your champion. And recover 8. Very simple, very effective. Definitely a card that you want to use pretty liberally. What's nice is, because again, you don't die until your end step, you can go for your kill. Like, you could put yourself at like 40, 41 damage, or maybe like if they hit your breastplate, you could put yourself at like 36, 35 or so, and then go for it, like try to scream or try to do whatever. And because this costs 0, you just have to hold this, and you play it, you recover 8, maybe a lineage release, you recover another 6, or you play 2 of these, you recover 16. You're back under the threshold, and you get another turn. Just be aware that, obviously, Leeching Bolt, Fireball, Lightweaver's Assault, even, like, Refracting Missile I've died to. They can come on your end step, and they can deal damage to you, so just be aware of that. But yeah, that's the main deck. Definitely, again, it's not rocket science. You know, take a lot of damage, and then attack the opponent, but this deck performs super well. I don't know how much of it is we're still in the early meta and everyone's kind of on some greedy stuff where, like, they're not fully optimized. I don't think this is fully optimized either, for what it's worth. And then we can go to the side. I don't think this is fully optimized either, but I think this is a super strong strategy, particularly against slimes. I think this beats the heck out of slimes. Sometimes they're fast enough at the start to put you in the danger zone, and then you don't have a lot you can do. But if they don't kill you before you're, like, kind of set up a little bit, they don't have a way to permanently remove your breastplate. They don't have a way to, you know, deal with you at fast speed, really. And if they double Storm Slime you, you're kind of happy about it. They do, of course, have Covenant, or not Covenant, Stone Scale Band. They do have Covenant as well, which is hard to deal with. But they have Stone Scale Band on their end step to play a Storm Slime to try to kill you. That is definitely something they can do. But you also put them on a pretty fast clock once you hit level 3. I think it's really strong. Scream is really, really good into their board. And yeah, I think this beats the pants off of slimes right now. Merlin feels about 50-50. Merlin definitely is good into this. Kongming feels pretty good into. Nico, it feels extremely bad into. And then allies, admittedly, I need more testing, but at a surface level, this feels good into allies. Because pretty much every game I've been able to hit level 3, and then, like, yeah, they're dealing damage to me, but I'm healing 8, which healing 8 against allies is like, okay, I get another turn, and then eventually I can just play Reckless Outburst. Or Relentless Outburst, I think it's called, the Scream. I can play the Scream and wipe their board. Relentless Outburst. Play the Scream, wipe their board, and I'm chilling. I do think, like, one of those maybe more robot-oriented decks or Oath of the Sakura-themed decks would probably do pretty well into it once that gets really optimized, because that can kill you super fast. But yeah, I think this is pretty good into the field right. Side deck, again, by no means do I think this is perfect. Viridian Protective Trinket, very important, I think, that you... Water is your worst nightmare. Getting your breastplate fracturized, getting your Shuangji sacrifice fracturized, getting Song of Frosted, getting, you know, all sorts of... Getting your things counterspelled, because you are often laying your whole hand. Feels really bad, so you bring this in, of course, versus water. 3 Incapacitates. Yeah, I'll pay 4 for it. It's... You have that many cards in hand. So a lot of times you're going for a lethal line, and you're just like, okay, I can just Scream, and no matter what they try to do, save a Blanche, I'll just incapacitate it. And I'm good from there. 3 Crimson Impressions. We didn't talk about this card because it's side only. It costs 3. Costs 2 if you have 25 or more damage. Name a card, and until end of turn, you don't take damage from that card. Notably, you can name their champion. You can call Nico with this, and Ravaging Finale will not hit you, which is really, really nice. Don't call the attack. Call the champion, because it's the champion that's dealing damage to you. So this is kind of nice in that regard, where you don't necessarily... You have an answer to everything. Bring this in versus Merlin, Kongming, call Fireball, Leeching Bolt. You can call... and it's fast, so on your end step, they'll try to Fireball you or kill you, and you can just go, okay, Crimson Prescience. 3 Meltdown. We need a way to deal with Covenant of Thorns that's a little cleaner. Also, you can kill Nullifying with it. So it's pretty good. I don't want to go Reduce Dash because specifically I want to kill Covenant of Thorns most of the time. I don't care about Nullifying as much. You also want to be able to kill Nico's Vapor Jet Shield or her Magebane Lash. I guess also let's break this down really quick. So Vapor Jet Shield completely blanks Scream because it deals 1. It tries to deal 1. So even if they're Poison Daggered, doesn't matter. It'll just they'll take 0, and then 0 will not increase. So you have to melt down the Vapor Jet Shield. Magebane Lash, you don't have to. If you have a lethal Scream, if Scream will do like 28 damage to Nico or whatever, or even 25, just enough that she's just dead to it, it'll all hit her at once. Then all the Magebane Lash triggers would go on the stack, but before they resolve, she'll die to state-based actions for having too many damage counters on herself. So you can kill her through a Magebane with Scream, as long as the single Scream is killing her. Because a lot of times, if you try to double Scream, and the first one will do 0. The second one might not, but the first one will do 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, and then she'll heal 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, so it'll do 0. The second one will do 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, and then, like, if you're at, like, 45 damage counters, you can actually one-shot her with it. So yeah, I think Meltdown is the choice here. You could also probably run Spurn to Ash if you want. I just think Meltdown's better. Because if you're level 2 or higher, it costs 1 less to cast, and all that. Thunderclap. I like Thunderclap a lot, too. It deals 4 damage. Once you're level 3, it only costs 2. Really good to deal with Taunters or Interceptors. Really good in the early game to deal with, again, Hydro Guard. I'm going to talk about Hydro Guard Retainer a lot, because I think that's kind of the only card that keeps Kongming afloat. So if you can just shoot that, I think you're in a really good spot in that matchup. This also is nice if you go to Scream, and they go Blanche, and then you shoot Blanche with the Thunderclap before the Scream resolves, because it's fast. So you can also get around. So like if you don't want, if you see that they sided in Blanche rather than siding in like, I guess Veiling Breeze is just an easy example. You can do this instead of Incap to answer to the Scream. I only have 2 off the top of my head. I only have 2 notable excludes. I'm not running Rending Flames. I think it's not necessary. Yeah, you get to sometimes like hit him with the, you know, the Bing Bong early on. You just, you know, like Dragon's Dawn, Rending Flames, deal 16 or whatever. Definitely an option, but you need 6 Fire Engrave, and you're a lot softer to Nullifying. So I like just running, like, again, my Hemorrhaging Rend, my Flame Sweep, just stuff that isn't, because once you're Jin 3 and you're Enraging and you're like, you've built up this huge hand and you're ready to go for it, you're doing enough damage, trust me. My damage record is 72 in 1 turn, so you are fine for damage if you have the cards in hand and you're surviving and you're making it to the late. So, you know, if you play smart, you get through it. There's not as much to worry about with regard to like, oh, I need to Rending Flames them so that I can double my Shuang-Chi swing. It's a really good tactic. It's just, I think, unnecessary. Also notably excluded is Seize Fate, the super rare, that says for the rest of the game, if you would take damage, instead remove that many damage counters from your champion. You know, it kind of like prolongs your life. I would rather just run the normal recover cards. Yes, with Seize Fate, you're like less soft to stuff like Morgan. And you do get like a longer game, but now they have no reason not to swing into you. They'll just swing into you, reduce your damage counters, and you can never get those back. And all of your card, like, as soon as you cross a threshold the other way, like let's say you cross the 25 damage threshold or the 20 damage threshold on a lot of the cards, like Hemorrhaging Rend is a cleave at 20, right? So let's say you go to like 19 or 18 and you have a Seize Fate live, you can only go down from there. So you're never going to get cleave on that again. You get weaker and weaker and weaker, and your Shuang-Ji gets weaker and weaker and weaker. So I think that card's actually quite bad. But yeah, that's been my experience with Jin. If you've tried Jin and you like him, let me know what you've got going on. If you think Jin is going to do work at Ascent Toronto, let me know. I think we'll see a little bit of Jin at Ascent Toronto. I think this deck is really strong, and I'll tell you for sure, it's a ton of fun. Really, really recommend trying it. But yeah, that's it for today's deck tech. I have a few other deck techs in the works. I'll be releasing these intermittently, so keep an eye out for those, and enjoy the rest of your day.